All right, y'all. We are this isn't gonna be that long. What we're gonna be going through is just a lesson talking about longevity, kind of, and just being focused. And what you're gonna see, this is gonna tie into basically anything you do in life. This will tie into it. Okay, you can apply this particularly to your spiritual walk, but in other places also. And it's just something I've been studying because, especially in this day and age, like I said, another lesson I did, they call it the attention economy that we live in now. And everything is going after your attention. Like anything you want's at your fingertip, knowledge and information. But the trade-off with that is very hard to stay focused on one thing. I know back in the day, back in the 80s, 90s, it was the other way around. It was hard to get information and find information you needed. Where we're at now, information isn't just it's not even at your fingertips anymore. You don't even have to search for it. You literally speak it and it gets put in front of you with AI now. So, but on top of that, with phones and social media and notifications, all that, it can be the new challenge is staying focused, staying locked in on stuff. Okay. But we're going to go through this, and what we're talking about is just long-term focus. Okay. And they have a name, what they call it is the emotional high of jumping pursuits. Okay. And it's something that a lot, especially the way, again, what I talk about in this attention economy with all these distractions out here, social media and all the stuff on the internet and everything, and things literally scientifically put together to target and grab your attention. It can be very hard to stay focused and on one pursuit, but it's the easiest. What they were saying, if you can stay focused, it's the easiest time in the history of man to be successful at something. But again, everything's vying for your attention. So what we're talking about is the emotional high of jumping pursuit. So novelty and excitement, jumping to a new job, a new project, or a new goal provides a quick rush of dopamine or novelty or excitement. It's almost like a drug. It's like, because when you embark on something new, there's excitement, and that excitement keeps your attention engaged in it. This can feel stimulating and momentarily satisfying. Okay. So, and here's the deception of it. There's a sense of progress. Starting something new can create an illusion of progress. So, like the example, we're going to use careers because that's something that everybody can kind of pick up on. But like with careers, you'll see people, they're going to do this career, or businesses. This happens a lot in businesses when people start a business. And this is something I was studying this week. You'll start a business, and inevitably you're going to run into that challenging aspect of the business. And it's going to be real difficult. It's going to be like a brick wall or whatever. And they call it shiny object syndrome, or they call it the grass is greener on the other side. So you're in this tough situation or some type of challenge, and starting a business is getting challenging. And you're like, you know what? Maybe I should go into this. This looks like something good. And you jump over into that. And you run into challenges with that, whether it be because it's boring, whether it be because it's too challenging. Inevitably, you're going to run into an area that just challenges you. And what people tend to do, and in this, again, it's more prevalent in this culture now, in this time we live in this information economy, in this attention economy we live in. Something else will grab your attention, and then boom, you start going down that one. And then next thing you know, you run into a brick wall on this one, then boom, you jump and you start going down this one. And next thing you know, you haven't accomplished anything. Years have went by and you haven't accomplished anything. You're just in the same place. And, you know, what it is avoidance of discomfort. Okay. Switching allows individuals to avoid the discomfort, challenges, and frustrations that inevitably arise when pursuing something long term. Okay. Temporary boost to self-esteem. The act of making a change can provide a temporary boost to self-esteem. It might feel empowering to take control and move on, even if it's a short-term fix. And then we talked about earlier the dopamine release. That's the feel-good hormone that makes you feel good when something, you know, has your attention or something you desire. So it talks about the dopamine release. New experiences trigger the release of dopamine in the brain, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This can create a cycle of seeking out new stimuli. Okay, so so we're gonna go through real fast the pitfalls of doing this. Lack of real accomplishment. We already talked about that. Okay. Despite the initial feeling of progress, frequent jumping prevents the accumulation of skills, knowledge, and results that lead to genuine accomplishment. Superficial understanding. Constantly starting over leads to a superficial understanding of any given subject or endeavor. Depth and mastery require sustained focus. You're not going to change. You're not going to make any meaningful progress in any endeavor, whether it's a career, whether it's a job, whether it's, most importantly for us, spiritual development, spiritual growth, spiritual progress. If you're just taking the quick dopamine exits, the things that are going to feel good and make you feel good. Okay. There's a Bible verse. It talks about running the race. You know, it's a marathon. You know, it's not a sprint. Okay. So, missed opportunities. Jumping from one thing to another means missing out on the long-term rewards, recognition, and fulfillment that comes from dedicated effort. Okay. The growth happens in the grind. Okay. The growth happens in the grind, in the boring, uncomfortable, difficult, challenging stuff. That's where you develop the skills to solve the problems and, you know, get it figured out. I think, did any of y'all watch, what was that documentary Michael Jordan did?
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance. Did you see what if you watch that, watch what happened when Detroit beat him that last time? And he sat there and he was like, look, he was like, we got to get bigger. Like they had to grow and develop and rise to the level to beat the Detroit Pistons. So there were a bunch of things they did, but the most memorable thing I can remember from the documentary is they all started lifting weights and getting bigger because Detroit, they were bullies. They were big and they would foul hard. So they got bigger, they lifted weights in the off season, and that next season they beat the Detroit Pistons. And after that, that's when the Bulls went on a roll and they steamrolled every team for seasons and seasons, okay? And that's the way it is. Sirach Ecclesiasticus tells you gold is tried in the fire and worthy men in the furnace of affliction. So where true growth and development happens at is not in that exciting time when it emotionally feels good and all that. It's when it's boring, it's uneventful, it's challenging, and nothing's happening. That's when the true growth and development happens, when you're forging ahead. If y'all remember a while back, I did a show showing how metal is forged. Have any of y'all seen, raise your hand if you've seen metal forged before? Oh, you have? Yeah, I'm going to put a video on. It's awesome to watch. If this isn't that long, I'll probably put one on after this. Like, I love just watching it. I could watch metal being forged for hours. Maybe it's a guy thing or something like that. I don't know. But it's awesome to watch metal being forged. So, and that's one of the ways you grow and develop. And that part of the forging process is sticking with things long term, understanding that to overcome shortcomings you have, areas that don't line up with the word, it's going to be a long-term sustained campaign. To get a lot of people get deliverance, and the reason why they don't maintain their deliverance is because they don't have that long-term desire to maintain the deliverance. They're just going through the motions and just, you're getting deliverance, but you're not putting things in place to maintain that deliverance, okay? So cycle of dissatisfaction. The temporary high of novelty eventually wears off, leading to a cycle of dissatisfaction and a constant search for the next new thing, okay? And what you're going to learn, you can name anybody, and maybe y'all should try. Give me a name of somebody, but anybody who's successful at stuff, it was based on what we call compounding focus. Michael Jordan, okay? Michael Jordan came in the NBA with NBA level talent. Like he was good, but there are people who've come in the NBA who've been better. Would y'all agree with that? Yeah. Now, they're more experts on this than me probably, but I've seen people come in the NBA with more talent, more size, more ability than Michael Jordan did. But what Michael Jordan did was sustain long-term focus. Go ahead and turn that off. What Michael Jordan did was sustain long-term focus, okay? He compounded. He kept working. He didn't let stuff distract him. And a lot of these people, when they get in the NBA, it's a huge distraction. A lot of are not going to come work out early in the morning. And if you watch The Last Dance, you're going to, what you get a glimpse at, and there's other documentaries, you get a glimpse at what Michael Jordan was doing behind the scenes to be who he was. They say he would be in the gym at either like 5 or 6 in the morning every morning, no matter what, even after a playoff game, even in the off season, whatever. Never take vacations, nothing, just balling the whole time, training. Kobe Bryant laid out his day. Kobe Bryant said what he'd get up at 3 and go to the gym from like 4 to 6, practice, then come home, eat breakfast, go back to the gym from like 9 to like 10 or 11, then come back home, take a break, then go back to the gym from like 2 to 4, come home, take a break, then go back to the gym again. And literally that was his day every day. You know, now, compounding focus, if there's something you want to change, you don't have to, it's not intensity, it's consistency. If you want to change something, if you have a goal you want to reach, if you have something you want to get good at, if you're working on overcoming some shortcoming in yourself that doesn't line up with the word or whatever, you don't need that level of intensity that Kobe was going at it with, because it's not the amount of intensity. You don't have to dedicate your whole day to whatever you're trying to accomplish. Consistency compounds. So if you work on something a half hour each day, and you're like, hey, like me, I want to get good at herbs. I want to get knowledgeable about herbs. I'm going to study about herbs for a half hour each day. And that's my commitment. And if you sustain that for over the course of a year, you're going to be light years beyond where you started out at, because consistency compounds. I can't do the math, but 30 times 365. You do the math, that's how many hours or minutes you spent doing that. You could divide it in hours or whatever, but that's a lot of time. So any goal you want to achieve, you just have to set it up to where you can manage it. Make it a manageable step. Pace yourself. So if you're going to run a marathon, are you going to start out like that? Nah, you're not going to start out running a marathon, a 40-mile race. You're not going to run it full speed. You're going to get a nice, manageable pace that you can do that's not burning you out and making you feel hopeless or whatever. And that's manageable, that's tolerable, but you're going to stick with it for the long term. Does that make sense? This is how you deal with anything you need to overcome. I'm going to give you an example. When we started going to the gym, when I went to the gym, initially, I would go, they had this back room where you could stretch. I would go to that back room and I would sit in there and stretch and do a couple stretches for like 10 minutes. And the rest of the time, I just go sit down and wait for Koya and the girls to get done doing all their stuff, because my knees and everything was that bad, okay? Literally, I did that for like over a month. And then I slowly began to add weight in, and now I go in there and I'm like killing it more than I ever have in my whole life. I'm lifting more weight than I ever lifted, okay? But it's biting off small enough chunks so you're not choking. And a lot of people, something happens and I really want to do this. And they so revved up and motivated, and they use all that energy and they take on too much, and then they burn out. And you're supposed to use that emotional energy and that desire and that like excitement of wanting to do something. That energy is supposed to be applied to setting up the system that you're going to use to, work on this thing over a long-term period of time. So you should be spending a whole bunch of time initially just figuring out, how am I going to break this into small pieces so I can consistently attack it and let that consistency compound. And compound means build up into something big, okay? So the importance of compounding focus. Success in any endeavor, whether it's spiritual growth, career, relationship, or personal growth, rarely comes from short bursts of effort. Instead, it's the result of compounding focus. So I'm telling you, if you see somebody that is not successful in anything, you can tie it to this. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting things out that stand true across the board on everything. Okay? If you see people who are not successful with stuff, it's because they're not compounding it. They're not doing it over the long term. They're running with it, and then when their energy and the excitement and the emotions run out, they stop doing it. And then they don't accomplish anything. They're not growing. They're not developing. They're not whatever. Okay? So this is across the board. Compounding focus means consistently dedicating time and energy to a specific goal over an extended period of time. Okay? Sustainability over intensity. Okay? This is what I just talked about. A massive initial effort is often unsustainable. It is like sprinting the first few miles of a marathon. You'll burn out quickly. On a spiritual level, if you got something you're trying to change and you're just trying to go after it, I got to change, you're going to burn out. That's all emotional. And this has to be spiritual. This has to be a sustained thing. These changes, when you decide you want to change something, it has to be a lifestyle. You have to adapt this thing into your lifestyle. Okay? So sustainability over intensity, massive marathon. You'll burn out quickly. Small, consistent actions are like a steady, manageable pace that you can maintain over the long haul. So when you set out to accomplish something, structure it so that you can do it over the long haul. So you're not going to get burned out. So instead of, like I said, hey, I'm going to read the Bible. I got to read the Bible. I said read the Bible. I'm going to read my whole Bible. And you're like, okay, I'm going to read this chapter today, and I'm going to read this chapter tomorrow, and this and that. And the next thing you know, no, just say, hey, I'm going to read my whole Bible, and I'm going to read a verse a day. I'm going to read a verse a day. And guess what? Some days you might read more verses. But I'm going to commit to myself to read one verse every day. You're gonna get way further than the dude who said, I'm going to read a chapter every day. And guess what? Someday gonna come, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be trying to read and then you're gonna be like, oh, I failed. Here, I only got halfway through, I failed. You're like, you know what? I ain't worrying about this. And next thing you know, you burn out and you don't do it. But the person who committed to doing one verse a day, here you are 6 months into the year and you halfway through the Bible. You see what I'm saying? So pace yourself on anything, whether it's let's say you got a spirit that you're trying to deal with in yourself or something you're trying to overcome in yourself. This is where the creativity comes in, or you might need counsel from somebody. But this is where it comes in. How am I going to break that into small chunks? Well, I want to change this. I want to work on this about myself. Well, each day I'm going to devote 15 minutes to researching about how I can overcome this thing. I'm going to search out Bible scriptures and read about it. But I'm going to do 15 minutes each day to getting this thing rectified. And I'm going to make a little file on my phone where whatever I find I can put in there. And 15 minutes 15 minutes each day, I'm a figure that out. What if it's something like food addiction, you overeat or something, or you need to change your diet? Y'all have heard me break that down before. Like, would I tell people, hey, if you eat an unhealthy diet, just put when you make your plate, put a little more vegetables on it and a little less meat on it, or whatever it is that you're trying to, and just gradually put a little more on there each day or over a period of time. Commit to having a little more vegetables on your plate than the unhealthy foods. But that is sustainable, because a lot of people are like, I'm going to eat healthy. We did it. I did it. I was like, man, I'm going to eat healthy. And we didn't know what the hell to eat that was healthy. So me and Corey are eating carrots and celery and peanut butter. And that shit lasted 2 or 3 days. And we were like, you know what? Forget that. You see what I'm saying? So it's a process. All right. Let's see. So each effort builds upon the previous one, leading to exponential growth and mastery over time. So each time you're like, hey, I read my verse yesterday. Now I read my one today, and you feel encouraged and it's doable. Hey, I might do a little more today. Boom, boom, boom. You read 2 verses today. All right, bam. You in there. But when you make it real big, you become discouraged because you're not accomplishing anything, or you didn't accomplish it. So this sustained commitment allows you to work through challenges, learn from setbacks, and ultimately achieve a level of expertise that those who constantly jump never obtain. So the process of committing to this over a period of time, it actually builds it builds the things you're going to need to be successful at any endeavor you overtake. Because any challenge that you take on is going to require these skills that you're going to develop when you stick with something over long term. Okay? Anything you take on is so you have to cultivate these muscles. And these muscles are focus muscles that enable you to focus over the long term. And when I say focus over the long term, I'm not talking about focusing on something, for a week or something. I'm talking about, when I say focus over the long term, I'm talking about focusing on stuff where, eventually the emotional motivation, inspiration, doing that thing kind of drops off. And by the time that happens, you want it to have already been incorporated into being a routine in your life that you do. Like us with the gym. We sit there, we go to the gym every other day. Boom. It's just like, hey, it's just part of our day now. Initially, it's not. It's tough, but that's what it is. All right. Challenges to long-term focus, inevitable obstacles. In long-term pursuits, any long-term pursuit will encounter obstacles, setbacks, and periods of slow progress. Again, these things are what create the calluses that make you tough. Okay? This is where you grow and develop, is in the inevitable obstacles that you run into with long-term pursuits. Okay, the setbacks, the periods of slow progress, these challenges can test your commitment and make you question your path. But this is the furnace of affliction, you being forged like metal to be tough. So that, and if you forged metal is the toughest metal, They use forged metal in real tough, intense environments, challenging environments. A crankshaft in a car is forged metal, okay? Walls and difficulties. You'll hit walls. There will be times when you feel like you're not improving or that the task is too difficult. These are natural parts of the process to forging you, to developing you into a person that's going to be successful. And you got to come up with solutions when it seems like it's too difficult. When it gets too difficult, one of the solutions is take smaller steps. Slow the pace down, but don't quit. You understand what I'm saying? Boredom and monotony, okay? Let's face it, long-term focus often involves routine and repetition, which can lead to boredom. I'm telling you, the road to success, is not exciting. It's boring. The boredom is the one that causes people to just, I promise I could tell you stories about things that I've made that I said I'm gonna work on this in my life, and there are some things in my life I've been working on for years. When I say years, I'm talking about 15, 20 years. Health stuff I could tell you about. Been working on for years. But I'm not quitting. I'm not gonna quit. And I didn't understand this concept, but now that I consciously know this, and now that y'all consciously know this, y'all are weaponized. You are ready to, whatever you set your sights on, you'll get it because you have the recipe to do it now. Maintaining motivation through periods can be tough, okay? Temptation of shiny objects. So we talked about shiny object syndrome. The world is full of enticing distractions. Look no further than social media and new opportunities. The temptation to abandon your current path for something that seems more exciting can be strong. And it's extremely strong in this day and age, and it's gonna get stronger. And if you're not aware of that, you're gonna be misled. Back in the day, the challenge to becoming successful was getting the information. Now, the challenge to becoming successful in this day and age is avoiding information overload. It's totally opposite. But inevitably, you got to stay focused on the main thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Fear of failure. The longer you work towards a goal, the more invested you become, and the fear of not achieving it can become more intense. But that overcoming fear with wisdom and knowledge. If you understand that this thing here is literally like 1 + 2 = 3. That's how this thing is. It is literally like a law. You stick to something and you'll get it. whether good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Because I guarantee if you just carelessly navigate through life, you're going to wind up shipwrecked somewhere. Okay? Lack of immediate gratification. Long-term goals rarely provide instant rewards. This can make it difficult to stay motivated, as you may not see the fruits of your labor for a while. So you have to make sure it's something that you're content with, something that you enjoy doing. You're not doing something you hate. Something that's within your wheelhouse and your capability. Like me, working on airplanes. The reason I went in the Air Force and worked on airplanes because I like airplanes, and that's why I stuck with it as long as I did. Because if that shit was like working at McDonald's or doing some boring shit, I wouldn't have stayed in there. But was working on planes my life ultimate thing that I love? No, but I enjoyed it. You know, I was cool doing it. It was something I had that I felt like I was decent at or good at, you know. So the payoff of learned long-term focus, mastery and expertise. Sticking with something allows you to develop deep expertise and mastery. See, this is what everybody misses. There's stuff you're going to learn if you stick with something for a long time. Like Sammy, with you crocheting. I remember like when Crystal got y'all going on that, tears. She wants me to sew these squares. Like, sew that shit. And now it's like you be making, what we did, we went on eBay because we put some of her stuff on eBay. Y'all, we put her cow on eBay. This person had a cow that looked like, what do I call that thing? It looked like, dude, I'll just have to show it to you. And they were able to see it. All you girls, when y'all went to the feast, everybody had their table out. I walked through that shop. And then I came to y'all's table, and people were coming over to y'all's table, and they were like, wow, like y'all made this? And it's like, to y'all, it don't seem like a big thing. But y'all been consistently sticking with this over a long period of time. So I walked around at the feast, and I'm looking at the tables, and then I went out there to y'all, and y'all had a whole crowd of people there, and then next thing you know, everything was sold. And a lot of times you keep your head down and you're mastering stuff and you're getting good at it. And a lot of times, and you enjoy doing it or whatever, but a lot of times you don't realize how far ahead you are. But mastery. But this is critical, y'all. Listen, you got to hear me. This is critical on a spiritual level. The most critical part of everything I'm saying applies to you getting to know yourself, understand your shortcomings. Mastery and expertise. Sticking with something allows you to develop deep expertise and mastery. You need to get to know yourself. You need to examine yourself, like the word says. Because look, this is at the nucleus of everybody's problem, is they don't examine themselves. And then that's when you have people, you got wise men with gray hair, and then you got what they call grays, silly old men that have no wisdom or knowledge. Because just year after year after year after year after year, they've neglected to examine themselves. And life is not cinematic. If you don't do what you need to do, you're not going to get what you need to get. And life does not care if you're 60 years old and you're a dumbass and life has passed you by and you shit your whole life away. This thing is real. Examine yourself. It's on you. Nobody's going to come and force you to do it and make it right for you. You have to make it right for you. Life will pass you by. I watched my grandfather die a drunk with an amputated leg. Life will pass you right by. Okay? This thing is real. Don't despise the wisdom of Yah. He said, get wisdom and get understanding. So the number one thing everybody needs to make a commitment to is examining themselves and making sure they're in alignment with this word. Do y'all understand that? Over the long term. I'm not saying, okay, Mike, I got Mike's messages and I just see you just, like every single day for 8 hours straight trying to get yourself right, and you fasting for 3 weeks straight, and I gotta get this off, and then what? 3 weeks later, 3 months later, you back to being a dumbass and you done stopped doing everything and forgot that you even needed to do this. No, just make a commitment. I'm going to work on myself a little bit each day. I'm going to begin researching some stuff. I'm going to figure this out each day. And I got years to do it. So each day, that's going to compound. And over time, you're going to begin to see, you're going to begin to grow and develop. Okay? Okay, resilience and grit. Overcoming challenges and pushing through difficult times builds resilience and grit. Resilience and grit are valuable qualities that will serve you in all areas of life. If you just pick one thing to stick to, personally, I would say one thing you need to stick to and work on is self-examination, examining yourself to see if you be in the faith, making sure you're in alignment with the word. That's one thing you can stick to, okay? But in whatever you stick to, it's gonna show you all the skills you need to overcome anything in life. And I'm telling you, don't think this is just gonna happen. You got to intentionally do this. And again, I tell you, there's people, they've never done this, and life will pass. Life don't care if you do this or if you don't do this. Okay? But Yah does. You see what I'm saying? And you have to, in order to be successful at anything, you have to develop grit and resilience. Okay? Yeah, can you? Sense of accomplishment. The satisfaction of achieving a long-term goal is far greater than a temporary high. Okay? It provides a lasting sense of pride and fulfillment. And what it's trying to say there, where I wrote that, what it's trying to say is it's going to develop your confidence or what they call, I think they call it self-esteem. It's going to develop that. You're going to have confidence in yourself to do things. As a person, you're going to, that's the best way I could put it. Deeper understanding, consistent focus leads to a deeper understanding of subjects. So for instance, of subjects, crafts, or relationships, allowing you to appreciate nuances that others miss. Okay. But coming from a spiritual standpoint, you're going to develop wisdom. Okay. You're going to develop wisdom and understanding that you can hand down and bestow to other saints and other people out there that might be struggling, that might be lost. Okay. You're going to be, when they see the success in you, whether it's spiritual or whatever, it's going to be a light to them. They're going to be like, man, that dude got it together. That's a strong witness. The book says that. It says, let your works so show that they may praise Yah. Now, and I didn't quote that correctly, but if people are not going to go to somebody who's an F up and ask him for advice. Because they're like, no, if I listen to him, I'm going to be like him. You see what I'm saying? And they don't want to do that. Okay, increase opportunities. Long-term dedication often opens up opportunities that would not be available to those with a short-term focus. Okay, compounding rewards. The benefits of sustained effort often compound over time, leading to exponential growth in skills. And exponential is just like a large amount of growth in skills, knowledge, and success. Okay? And then last, I'm going to just quote this one verse. The soul of the sluggard desireth and have nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. So the sluggard says, well, yeah. And this is why I've said this before, man, people will tell you exactly what their issues is and they will talk a good game, but they just desire something. They desire it, but they don't get anything, okay? But the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. And what is diligent? The definition of diligent, I combined two of them. Careful, persistent work or effort, steady, earnest, energetic effort, devoted and painstaking work and application to accomplish an undertaking. Okay? That's diligent. Not the soul of the sluggard who's like, well, I want it so bad. No, you don't. Because if you want it, you get after it. So check this out. Lastly, I was watching some videos, some shorts, some inspirational shorts. And Kobe, y'all might have seen this interview. Kobe was at the press conference and the interviewer asked him, he said, Kobe, would you say you're at a point in your career where you ran into a wall? And is that where you're at in your career now, where you're at a wall and you can't go any further? He was like, no. He was like, and if I did, it doesn't matter. And the reporter's like, why? He's like, because I'd run through the wall. I'm like, dude, that is gangster, man. I was like, boy. And he meant it. He meant that jump. So that's what it's about. That's the mindset it's about. But anyway, did anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, anything to add in?
10,950.
What's that?
365 times 30.
30 minutes? So how many hours does that this 10,000 whatever and whatever convert to?
24 hours in the day.
10
to 12 hours in a day.
How many hours does that many minutes convert into? But another thing they talk about is aim small, miss small. Don't have a whole bunch of goals out there, okay? A whole bunch of things you're trying to do. Get maybe at the most 2 or 3 things that you're going to really focus on, and one that's going to be your primary, okay? Don't spread yourself thin, okay? That's like trying to run multiple marathons, you know? So, all right. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so basically, you talk about how to like overcome the challenges, but I would ask like, why do people run into those challenges of, running into a wall of, trying to go through something and then it being hard for them to overcome it, and what is the reason for them going into it in the first place instead of trying to just push through it and really seek after it.
Life. I mean, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, but what he asked, if y'all didn't hear, he was asking why. You're asking why do people run into challenges?
For example, you're going through something and you're trying to push through that challenge, but you don't understand what's causing it. Instead
right. Okay. That's it. It's like, what you're asking is like asking Mike, I want to lift 45 pounds. Why is it when I go to the gym, I can't push it up? Because your muscles ain't big enough yet. You got to start out smaller and build your muscles up. So it's the same thing when it's something spiritual or mental or whatever. There's certain mental or spiritual muscles you haven't worked, you're not aware of, that you need to become aware of. And it's called growing pains. You're going to go through pain and difficulty in order to get to that level, to reach that level of realization or understanding. And a lot of people, sometimes from trauma, growing up, from life or whatever, you've been conditioned or you've just felt, because we live in a fallen state. We're born in sin, shaped in iniquity. So we've grown up conditioned to not realize or not see these shortcoming areas that are plaguing us, that are affecting us in a bad way. You see what I'm saying? Anybody else? Go ahead.
1,082 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay, so 1,000 hours. So if you commit to doing something for a half hour each day, you'll get 1,000 hours in. And listen, they said they got some. You can look it up online. They got something where I think they said if you get in 10,000 hours of anything, you'll reach mastery. And yeah, and it's just like some scientific thing they said, but I think it's.
Break that down. Even when you're in college, you have to have so many hours to obtain credit.
A degree, yeah, yeah.
That's really
And what they're saying is that it takes that level to kind of recondition your mind or whatever. But at the end of the day, yeah, you gotta apply yourself and. Somebody might say, well, I don't know what I want to get into. I don't know what I want to, I don't pursue. Okay, well, there you go right there. Now, break that down into small chunks. I'm going to spend a half hour each day figuring out what I want to pursue or what I need to work on. You see what I'm saying? And then you'll figure that out. It took me. This is years ago when I was in Georgia, I had that realization. I think I was like 24 or something. And I had got out the military. I had bought my house and I had, to me, I felt like I had accomplished a lot, but I needed to do something else and I couldn't figure it out. And I just sat there for a whole month, every day, I just committed to just considering that, trying to figure that out. And it was like in October or something. And I figured it out. And it was investing. I started investing and stuff like that. And I should have stuck with that, but I didn't, So, but I know about investing. So, all right, anybody else got anything? Questions? Comments? Concerns? All righty. We're going to wrap this up. Shalom, shalom.